Pythagorean theorem. These are word problems with pictures. This is another classwork worksheet. I'm going to help you kind of get started on a few of these and then leave you to your own. I think the hardest problem with word problems is figuring out what is your A, your B, and your C. So I'll try and help you read through the problem and know how to find the A, B, and C. Let's start with number 1, because on this whole worksheet, I think number 1 is the hardest. Rob is putting up new siding on his house. He has a ladder that is 22 feet long. That's important. Let's highlight that. There we go. Rob's wife doesn't want him trampling through the landscaping. Landscaping is like bushes and flowers, things like that, which goes out 8 feet from the side of the house. So that's important because that's going to give us our base. 8 feet from the side of the house. Rob needs to have the ladder reach the house 20 feet off the ground. The reason this is important is because we need to know if it will reach. That's one of our questions. Will it reach? At what height off the ground will the ladder hit the house? Round your answer to the nearest tenth. So this is a multi-step problem. First, we're given 3 numbers. We're given our A, B, and C. We need to know if that will work. So once we figure out if these 3 numbers, if we plug them into the Pythagorean theorem, if it will reach, we need to find what height off the ground will the ladder hit the house. So is it going to hit exactly at 20 feet that Rob needs? Is it going to be higher or lower? Multi-step problem here. They give us a picture, which is nice. It's kind of dark in the printout, but let's see if red will work it. So here's my ladder. You guys see that? The ladder right there? And then the base is going to be this guy right here. And then our house is the straight up and down line. So they want to know if it will reach. Whenever you have a problem that talks about the ground and then something straight up, whether it's a house or like this guy right here, this palm tree, right? That is your right angle. And that's important because what is the very first thing we do? We need to figure out where is our C. So we draw our arrow, and this is our C. The ladder is going to be our C. And we know that the ladder is 22 feet long. So this right here is 22. Our C is 22. We know that it has to go out 8 feet from the side of the house. So that's this base part right here is going to be your 8. And then, so we can make this, let's see, if this guy over here is C, let's make 8B. Does it matter which one's A and which one's B? Does not matter. So this is going to be 8. And remember, we have to square these. So I'm going to make that 8 squared. I'm going to go back here and make 22 squared. And then A, it needs to go 20 feet off the ground. So the first thing we're going to figure out is, will it reach? Is this actually going to be 20 feet? That's our question mark. So we're going to hit plus 20 squared. So now this is, one of those verification problems when they give you 3 numbers and you have to figure it out. Well, 20 squared, 20 times 20, that's 400. And use your calculator if you don't have it memorized. 8 squared is 8 times 8, that's 64. I gotta be honest with you guys, I don't even know what 22 squared is. So I'm gonna come over here, grab my handy dandy calculator, and I'm going to say 22, and I'm going to hit my squared button, 484. So I'm going to write 484. Okay, so 400 plus 64 equals 44. So let's see. They don't equal, so this would not be a right triangle, would it? But if we think about it, his ladder is 22 feet long. So since this number is actually bigger than what we need it to be, the 20 feet to the top of where he needs to go and the 8 feet away from the house, this actually, will it reach? The answer is yes. It will reach. Even though this does not give you a right triangle, it will reach. My guess, and we're going to figure this out in a second, my guess would be that it actually is going to be higher than 20 feet because the 22 feet that is his ladder is higher than the combination, than the 20 squared plus the 8 squared. So you know how I tell you to take an educated guess? My educated guess would be that it says what height off the ground. Oh, well, that's funky. What height off the ground will the ladder hit? I'm guessing it's going to be over 20 feet. So we're going to figure that out over here. So now let's get rid of this 20 feet. We needed that to see if it would work. And we've decided yes, it will, because 484 is bigger. So the ladder is definitely tall enough. Let's figure out, I'm going to use a different color. Well, can you see that? Maybe I need a different color. What if I did, will yellow work? Oh, yellow is nice. Okay, so what is X? Like, how high does this ladder actually reach? All right, so we are going to, we do not know our A. I'm switching colors all over the place. We do not know our A. So that's going to be, A is now X. So instead of being 20, we're going to say, I wonder how high it actually goes. So we're going to make that a question mark or an X when you deal with unknown things in math. You make them an X. And then B squared stays the same because this hasn't changed. And the ladder is still 22 feet. So my C hasn't changed either. That's still 22. I told you, I think number one, just because of the way they asked the question, is the hardest. That's why I'm doing this one all the way through for you guys. The others I'll give you hints on, but I think you can do those easier on your own. All right, so my X squared stays. My 8 squared becomes 64. And I already did 22 squared over here, so I know that's 484. We want to get X squared by itself. So to get rid of a positive or a plus 64, I'm going to subtract. And if I subtract it over here to get X squared by itself, I need to subtract 64. It's getting a little squished over here. So again, I'm going to take my handy dandy calculator and I'm going to say, clear this out, 484 minus 64. 484 minus 64 equals 420. So equals 420. Now that does not mean that he reaches 420 feet in the air with this little 22-foot ladder. I have one last step I have to do. I need to do my square root. Both sides. So X equals, I'm going to take my 420, move it up a little bit here, my 420, and here's my square root again. You guys, it's above the 9 for you all on your calculators. And that gives me an irrational number, 20.49 blah, blah, blah. This 9 is going to change the 0.4 into a 5, right? If this is 5 and above, give this guy a shove. So it's going to be 20.5. And hopefully you guys understand that 20.5 feet is in fact, not by much, but it is in fact higher than the 20 feet he needs. So we were right. it will reach, and the height off the ground is going to be 20.5 feet. It also told us to round to the nearest tenth, which is why I only have one decimal. Make sure you read that it says tenth and not hundredth, because if this word were hundredth, we would need two numbers after the decimal. Since it's tenth, it's like 10 dimes, so you only need the dimes place, the first number. Okay, hope that made sense. Let's look at number 2. And from now on, I am just going to give you guys hints. I'm not going to solve the whole thing. I'll get you started, though. Okay, number 2. A 15-foot tall tree has a shadow that is 25 feet long. If this were a test question, the very first thing I'd do would be highlight this first sentence, because that's got two pieces of information I need. I need to know that it is a 15 tall tree and the shadow is 25. This, the hypotenuse here, this slanted guy, that's not your shadow. If you're standing here and that's the sun, your shadow's on the ground, right? So this is your 25, this base right here. This is 25 feet. And then it tells me the tree is 15 feet tall. How far is it from the end of the shadow? That's right here, okay? And we want to know length, right? How far? From the end of the shadow to the top of the tree. End of the shadow, top of the tree. And you could highlight this, underline, whatever makes sense to you. So here's the top of my tree, right? There's the shadow. That's what I need to know. There's your X. We know, because I told you before, the ground and whatever is standing up is your right angle, and it gives you that right here. That's your right angle. So the very first thing after you label stuff with the information in the word problem is to draw your arrow. So there is my hypotenuse, there is my C. Again, it doesn't matter what you make A or B. Here we made A the side just to show you it doesn't matter. For kicks and giggles. Let's make A the bottom now. It doesn't matter. And we'll make the side B. Plug it into your problem. So A is going to be 25 squared. B is going to be your 15 squared. And C is going to be your X squared. Now, when your hypotenuse is X, the cool thing, well, that just doesn't look very good at all. Let me try something else. Hang on. Let's redo this one. Okay. A little better. All right. The cool thing is when your X is your hypotenuse, you don't actually have to end up doing all this subtraction like we had to do up here because everything is already on one side. So you would square your 25. You would square your 15, add those two numbers together. There we go. Let's see if Miss Walker can make a straight line. Oh, that was better. So once you figured out what this number is squared, this number is squared, you add them together, and then you would take your square root. Okay, and then once you find your square root, nearest tenth, so you need one number after the decimal. Don't forget to round if you have to. You know, give it a shove like we did up here if you need to. And that would be your final answer. Again, I'm not going to give you that. That's as much hints as I'm going to give. And even on this next one, it's going to be a little less. And then you're going to do the rest on your own. So here's the last one I'm going to do for you is this flat screen television. All right, so flat screen television has a diagonal length. And remember, up and down is vertical, side to side is horizontal. Diagonal means corner to corner. So again, yellow showed up really well. So let me try yellow on this picture. If you wanted to on your worksheet, you could just draw the triangle out if drawing on your picture is harder with your pencil. So this right here, corner to corner, that's your diagonal line. And that's 40 inches. So we're going to make this 40 right here. You guys see that? So let's go with the highlighter. 40 inches. All right, now the base, that's this bottom part here, is 36 inches. So just to keep the colors nice, we're going to have this base right here. Wow, that was crooked. Let's try that again. I'm sure there's a way I can make a line somewhere here. Okay, so the base, that's a little better. This base right here is going to be 36. And then, okay, so the base is 36 inches across. And it says, what is the height of the television? So right there, what is the height tells you this guy right here, you don't know. So the height, again, there's got to be an easier way to do that. Okay, I'm going to experiment because you guys are being very nice to me. See if I can make a line. Oh, well, look at that. Isn't that fancy? Oh, well, look what Miss Walker found. A line. Huh. See, sometimes trying new stuff, you learn things. Okay, so back to the problem. We have a 40-inch diagonal. We have a 36-inch on the base. And we need to know how tall it is. What is the height? And again, we're going to round to the nearest tenth. To help you guys out, remember, if it's a rectangle, all the angles of a rectangle are right angles. Okay, if you were wondering what that noise was, I live near the hospital, so that was a helicopter. Moving on. This right here is your right angle. All the angles of a rectangle have right angles, so there's your right angle. The first thing you do is draw your arrow so you can figure out what is your C. This case, our C is 40. Does it matter what you make A or B? No, it does not. So I'm going to make A be X, and B is going to be 36. And now, I'm not going to do anything else. In this case, since we have X for A, you are going to have to do some subtraction like we did up here. And solve for X. Remember to round to the nearest tenth. All right, number 4. Two families went camping. The Becker family was 4 miles west of the campsite lake. The Dunn family was 3 miles north of the lake. How far apart are the Becker and Dunn campsites from each other? It gives you the two campsites. It gives you the lake. Remember, west, okay, just FYI, this, never eat soggy waffles. So west is to the left, which means if the Becker family was 4 miles to the west, here's Becker. So if it's 4 miles to the west, there's your 4. And then the Dunn family is 3 miles north. Remember, north goes up. So that means from here we're going north is up. So there is your 3 because that's the Dunn family. And they want to know how far apart they are. I am not going to do anything else. No arrows. No, this is A, B, or C. Hopefully that by this point you can figure that out. Plug it in, solve for X, and tell me how far apart they are. This is all I'm going to do on this worksheet. There is a back side, so please complete that. If you need help, ask your teacher.